I made a video yesterday about we cannot let the Minnesota Vikings win at Ford Field. We cannot let them win the NFC North at Ford Field. And I started the show off by saying how bad it is. The fan base. The fan base of the Minnesota Vikings. What is going on there? Where did y'all come from? What portal, alternate dimension did you come from where you have the audacity to flap at the gums? Let me remind you, because it pleases me to do so, because Lions fans, we humble. We don't brag. We never have. The greatest running back of all time. One of the greatest receivers, if not the greatest receiver of all time. I know y'all love Jerry Rice. But Calvin Johnson was a specimen. And you still don't hear us flap at the gums. But today, I'm about to flap. Because I am sick to death of these Minnesota Vikings fans running their mouth. Now, there are good ones out there. The host of the Syndicate, he's a stand-up guy. Unbiased, for the most part. He's got his homer and his bias in him. But he's also, he looks at the stats and he looks at how his team is playing. And he says that the Detroit Lions are playing better football than the Detroit Lions are playing better football than the Minnesota Vikings, right? Today, Locked On Lions is going to be a crossover with the Minnesota Vikings host. I'm sure the host of the Minnesota Vikings is going to pick his team to win. But let us not forget that the past 3 games have been back and forth. These teams have split for the last 3 years. Okay? On top of that, we gave y'all the game in week 3 at your house. I'm going to pause right there because I want that to sink in. We gave you the game at your house after dominating you the entire game. And we weren't playing the same football we're playing now. But these Vikings fans are crazy. And my favorite part of this whole thing, who lost to the 0-10-1 Detroit Lions? That's right. The Purple People Eaters, the Minnesota Vikings, Skull Vikes. You lost to a team that was winless in walk-off fashion in 2021. But you got the audacity to be flapping at the gums. But they're not the only ones, Detroit Lions fans. There's a Detroit Lion, a Minnesota Viking, a former Philadelphia Eagle, Jalen Reagor, is flapping at the gums. Now, I told y'all yesterday that we can't let the Minnesota Vikings win the division, which they're going to do. Just one more win. We can't let them pop bottles at the crib. We can't let them do that because it's disrespectful. You come into my house, you take off your shoes, right? It's disrespectful. Pride of Detroit, shout out to Mr. Poole. Vikings wide receiver Jalen Reagor providing bulletin board material for the Detroit Lions. Right? Now, we talk, right? Back and forth. That's what we do. It's part of the game. This comes from Chris Thomason. Vikings outside linebacker DJ Wonnum agreed with what Kirk Cousins said yesterday, referring to clinching the NFC North. Said it's definitely a hat and t-shirt game. What that means is what I told y'all yesterday. I said they got hats. I said they got t-shirts. I said they're going to be waiting in their locker room to pop open, to unravel if they win at Ford Field. We know that. Comes with the game. It comes with the game. All right? But no. The most hated man in Philadelphia sports, if you ask the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Reagor has guaranteed the Vikings win in Detroit. This comes from Chris as well. I asked him about the possibility of clinching the division, and he said, quote, "We're going to win." end quote. I asked him if that's a guarantee. He said, quote, yes, end quote. He added, quote, I'm not going to say nothing about it if we might win. I'm expecting us to win. I have no doubts, end quote. Now, the last time I heard a quote was from that a guarantee that somebody was going to win was Rasheed Wallace with the Detroit Pistons. Jalen Reagor, referring to the hat and t-shirt game, that they going to come into my house, the Detroit Lions crib, and get the W. Not say we might go win, not leaving himself some leeway, not paying respects to the 4-1 Detroit Lions in the last 5 games. No, not paying respects to the team that has given away at least 4 wins. But they're going to win. I'm expecting us to win. I have no doubts. Now, you could say that that's what a player should say, right? We want our guys to be confident. We want us to be confident. But there are ways that you put this. There are ways that you put this. The Minnesota Vikings are so full of themselves that he's guaranteed to win. He's guaranteed to win in Detroit, which, listen, not just any win, ladies and gentlemen. They popping bottles. They're putting on hats and T-shirts. They called this the hat and T-shirt game. We're not even the Detroit Lions. This is the hat and T-shirt game. I'll say this. If you're the Detroit Lions and you got this guy flapping at the mouth, this was from yesterday. So this ain't even 24 hours old yet. It's from yesterday. You got this guy running his mouth, saying what he gonna do at your house. He don't even got the respect to call you by the hat and T-shirt game. Oh, no. I'm going to make sure he feel every time we touch him. Every time he get the ball, and even when he don't, I'm going to make sure he feel it. Bulletin board material, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happens when you don't get respect. And I think the Lions have earned respect. Let me go over just a little bit about what the Lions have done since starting 1-6. The Detroit Lions have the best red zone offense in the game. Now, the Minnesota red zone defense is pretty stout, but we got the best. It ain't the best versus the best. We are the best red zone offense in the league. On top of that, we got the second best record in the league in the last 4 or 5 weeks. On top of that, the Detroit Lions are top 10 in offense. And their defense since this winning stretch, I want to say, have allowed 4th fewest points in the league. Something like that. This team has turned the corner. Is it enough to save the season? We'll see. But I guarantee what you're not going to hear from nobody on the Detroit Lions, because Dan Campbell would have a fit if one of our players ran off at the mouth like this. This team is about the team and the team that's in front of them. When you lose respect for your opponent, you underestimate your opponent. Don't talk about it, be about it. So, I want my Detroit Lions, when these people come out the tunnel, our second to last home game, you give these fans what they paid for and more. You keep our playoff hopes alive. And you show Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings that they are done underestimating the Detroit Lions this year and years to come. They're 10-2. They could easily be 11-1. I saw a Minnesota host yesterday because the show popped up in my feed, Locked On Minnesota Sports. Said that if the one-score games flipped, the Minnesota Vikings would be 1-11. They win games. They win the close ones. Oh, let's not forget, too, that T.J. Hawkinson is coming back. He like a byline. That's like a B line. What do they call it? A B plot. T.J. Hawkinson ain't even a subject. Nobody's even talked about him all week. That he's coming back. No one. This is a battle of the 5-7 Detroit Lions and the very, very fortunate Minnesota Vikings at 10-2 with a chance to win at the division in your home. And this team better do all they can to prevent that from happening.